Humanity has always been obsessed with peeking beyond the curtain of time, driven by a deep need to understand and sometimes control what's coming next. Throughout history, a rare few have made predictions so specific and accurate, they defy explanation. Whether born from sharp observation, scientific genius, or pure intuition, these aren't vague, twistable prophecies. They're verifiable forecasts that came true against all odds. Let's dive into it. At number 1, we begin with Mark Twain's astonishing Halley's Comet farewell. Among history's most remarkable predictions stands the eerie foresight of Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain. Born in 1835, the exact year Halley's Comet blazed across the sky, Twain often saw this cosmic phenomenon as a personal emblem of his life. Decades later, as the comet prepared to make its 1910 return, Twain voiced an extraordinary prophecy to his biographer Albert Bigelow Paine. "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year and I expect to go out with it." This was no vague musing. It was a bold, precise forecast tied to an astronomical timetable. Twain even joked that the Almighty surely intended for these two unaccountable freaks to arrive and depart together. In a breathtaking twist of fate, he died on April 21st. 1910, just a day after Halley's Comet reached its closest point to the Sun. This uncanny alignment of birth and death with a celestial event defies coincidence and has fueled endless fascination among historians and astronomers. Twain's prediction reflected his sharp wit, love for the dramatic, and awareness of life's poetic patterns. While science cannot link the comet to his death, the timing was so exact it immortalized him as a man who quite literally kept his cosmic appointment. To this day, Twain's comet prophecy remains one of the most spine-tingling examples of personal prediction fulfilled with chilling precision. At number 2, we sail into Morgan Robertson's Titanic premonition. Long before the RMS Titanic's tragic maiden voyage in 1912, American author Morgan Robertson penned a fictional maritime disaster that would eerily mirror reality. In 1898, he released his novella Futility or The Wreck of the Titan, telling the story of the world's largest ship, the Titan, heralded as unsinkable, yet doomed to sink after striking an iceberg in the North Atlantic in April. Robertson's fictional vessel measured 800 feet in length, nearly matching Titanic's 882.5 feet, and like its real-life counterpart, carried too few lifeboats for its passengers. The Titan, like Titanic, met disaster on its first journey, claiming countless lives. When Titanic sank in April 1912 after hitting an iceberg, the similarities were so striking they seemed prophetic. Robertson, a former merchant marine with deep maritime knowledge, denied any supernatural ability, insisting his accuracy came from understanding shipbuilding trends and ocean hazards. However, his foresight about insufficient lifeboats was an unheeded warning rooted in real regulatory flaws. Both ships embodied the era's blind confidence in engineering, and both met the same icy fate. After Titanic's sinking, Futility was reissued, cementing its place in literary history as one of the most chillingly accurate fictional forecasts ever written. Today, the Titan-Titanic parallel continues to stand as a haunting reminder of how even fiction can foretell real-world catastrophes with unsettling precision. At number 3, we step into Nikola Tesla's unbelievable smartphone prophecy. Long before mobile phones, video calls, and global internet connectivity became reality, the legendary inventor, Nikola Tesla, envisioned them with uncanny precision. In 1909, when telegraphs and wired telephones were still considered groundbreaking, Tesla told the New York Times that it will soon be possible to transmit wireless messages all over the world, so simply that any individual can carry and operate his own apparatus. This was decades before even the concept of portable communication devices existed, yet it perfectly describes the foundation of mobile technology. His foresight didn't stop there. In a 1926 interview with Collier's, Tesla painted a detailed picture of a connected world where people could see and hear one another as perfectly as though we were face to face, despite intervening distances of thousands of miles. He spoke of devices amazingly simple compared with our present telephone, small enough to fit in a vest pocket. These words essentially forecast not just smartphones, but also FaceTime, WhatsApp calls, and real-time global video conferencing. Tesla even described the planet as becoming a huge brain, hinting at the interconnected networks we now call the internet. His predictions were grounded in a deep mastery of electrical engineering, but also in a visionary mindset that saw beyond his era's limitations. While his own attempts at wireless power transmission didn't directly create Wi-Fi or 5G, his ideas set an inspirational benchmark for future innovators. More than a century later, the devices in our pockets are living proof of how Tesla's daring imagination became an astonishing reality, making his words one one of the most accurate technological predictions in history. At number 4, we travel back to 1900 with John Elfreth Watkins Jr.'s future-shaping predictions. At the turn of the 20th century, civil engineer John Elfreth Watkins Jr. penned an article for the Ladies' Home Journal titled "What May Happen in the Next 100 Years," filled with bold forecasts for the coming century. Among the many predictions, one stood out as strikingly accurate: television. Watkins wrote that man will see around the world, and that persons and things of all kinds will be brought within focus of cameras connected electrically with screens at opposite ends of circuits, thousands of miles at a span. This vision, printed over 20 years before the first television broadcast, precisely described the core concept of transmitting moving images across great distances. He even predicted color image technology and the sharing of photographs over vast networks, foreshadowing not just TV, but also modern video streaming. Beyond visual media, Watkins foresaw conveniences such as ready-cooked meals, now a staple of supermarkets and fast food culture. His accuracy stems not from mysticism, but from a methodical engineer's mind, extrapolating from the rapid advancements in electricity, photography, and telegraphy of his time. By publishing in a widely read domestic magazine, Watkins framed these technologies not as abstract inventions, but as household tools that would transform everyday life. Some of his other forecasts missed the mark, such as Americans growing significantly taller, but his grasp of future communication technology remains extraordinary. More than a speculative dreamer, Watkins acted as a bridge between the scientific community and the public imagination, popularizing ideas that would inspire generations of inventors to bring them to life. Today, his television prediction stands as one of the most vividly fulfilled visions of the 20th century. At number 5, we launch into Jules Verne's uncanny moon mission blueprint. In 1865, more than 100 years before humans first set foot on the moon, French novelist Jules Verne stunned readers with his work From the Earth to the Moon. While his premise involved launching a manned capsule from a giant cannon, a scientifically impossible method for human survival, many of his other details aligned almost perfectly with NASA's Apollo 11 mission. Verne's fictional launch site, Florida, the same state where the Apollo spacecraft would later lift off from Cape Canaveral. His vessel, the Columbiad, carried 3 passengers and returned to Earth via ocean splashdown, just as Apollo 11's Columbia Command Module did in 1969. Verne even anticipated weightlessness, a phenomenon not yet fully understood in his time, demonstrating an incredible grasp of space travel's physical realities. The accuracy of his launch coordinates, crew size, mission profile, and recovery method speaks to a mind deeply engaged with the science of his day, extrapolating far beyond contemporary capabilities. His work blurred the line between fiction and informed speculation, inspiring generations of scientists and engineers to see space travel not as fantasy, but as an achievable goal. While his giant cannon was replaced by powerful rockets, the vision Verne offered, complete with precise logistical parallels, remains one of the most astonishing examples of literature predicting technological reality. His scientific romance did more than entertain, created a mental roadmap for space exploration, proving that sometimes the seeds of real-world innovation are sown in the fertile ground of imaginative storytelling. At number 6, we witness H.G. Wells foresee the atomic age. In 1913, years before nuclear physics could even dream of building such a weapon, British author H.G. Wells described the atomic bomb in his novel The World Set Free. His fictional devices unleashed catastrophic destruction with a thunderous noise in the sky and blanketed cities with deadly radioactive vapors that lingered long after the explosion. Wells envisioned these bombs as blazing continual explosions with a half-life of 17 days, making entire regions uninhabitable, eerily echoing the long-term fallout effects we associate with real nuclear weapons. Though his imagined mechanism differed from actual nuclear fission, Wells' understanding of the potential energy within the atom was remarkably ahead of his time. 3 decades later, in 1945, Hiroshima and Nagasaki bore witness to devastation that paralleled his fictional warnings, cementing his place as a prophetic voice in science fiction. What makes this prediction even more extraordinary is its influence on reality itself. Physicist Leo Szilard, a key figure in the Manhattan Project, credited The World Set Free with shaping his thinking about atomic chain reactions. Wells's foresight was grounded in emerging knowledge from pioneers like Rutherford and Soddy, yet he extended it into a chilling societal and ethical vision. His narrative warned not only of the weapon's raw power, but of its capacity to alter global politics forever. In imagining the atomic bomb, Wells not only predicted the dawn of the nuclear era, he may have helped ignite it, leaving a sobering lesson about the dangerous interplay between scientific imagination and technological possibility. At number 7, Dmitry Mendeleev writes chemistry's future before it happens. In 1869, Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev unveiled his periodic table, a neat, logical arrangement of the known elements. But what made it truly revolutionary were the deliberate gaps he left behind. These weren't mistakes, they were placeholders for elements no one had yet discovered. Mendeleev even claimed the table's structure came to him in a dream, and from that vision, he predicted the existence, appearance, and chemical behavior of 10 unknown elements. He gave them temporary Sanskrit-inspired names like Eka-aluminium and Eka-silicon, forecasting their atomic masses, densities, and how they would combine with other elements. The audacity of such precision was unmatched in 19th century science. Then, one by one, his missing elements appeared. Gallium was discovered in 1875, matching his Eka-aluminium almost exactly in weight and density. Scandium and germanium soon followed, perfectly aligning with his predictions for Eka-boron and Eka-silicon. These weren't lucky guesses. They were the result of profound scientific reasoning, showing that the periodic table wasn't just a chart, but a predictive tool. Mendeleev's vision turned chemistry from a catalog of facts into a framework for discovery, proving that when you truly understand nature's patterns, the unknown becomes inevitable. At number 8, Robert Boyle dreams of organ transplants centuries ahead of time. In the mid-17th century, surgery was a gamble. Infection was almost certain, and replacing an organ was pure fantasy. Yet in 1660, Robert Boyle, best known for Boyle's Law, made a startling entry on his personal wish list for the future of science: the cure of diseases at a distance, or at least by transplantation. The idea of removing a failing organ and replacing it with a healthy one was so far beyond the medical capabilities of his era that it bordered on science fiction. Boyle lived in a time before anesthesia, before germ theory, before doctors understood the immune system, yet he imagined a future where organ transplants could save lives. It took nearly 300 years for that dream to come true, with the first successful human kidney transplant in 1954 at Brigham Hospital in Boston. Boyle's foresight is remarkable not only for its medical ambition, but for its mechanical logic. He saw the body as a system whose failing parts might be swapped, much like components in a machine. His prediction didn't spark immediate action, but it planted a vision that modern medicine eventually realized. In an age when most people feared surgery, Boyle looked centuries ahead and saw hope, anticipating one of the most life-saving breakthroughs in history. At number 9, Arthur C. Clarke maps out space before we ever went there. In 1945, as the world recovered from war, British science fiction writer and futurist Arthur C. Clarke published a visionary paper, Extraterrestrial Relays: Can Rocket Stations Give Worldwide Radio Coverage? His idea was simple but revolutionary. Place satellites in an orbit where they circle Earth once every 24 hours. Matching its rotation so they appear fixed in the sky. Clarke calculated the exact altitude, 35,786 kilometers, and explained how just 3 such satellites could blanket the entire globe with continuous communication. This was more than science fiction. It was a precise engineering blueprint. At the time, rockets were still weapons, and space travel was decades away, yet Clarke's concept perfectly described the backbone of modern communication: satellite TV, GPS, weather tracking, even the internet's global reach. The orbit he envisioned is now known worldwide as the Clarke orbit. He proved that imagination, when grounded in science, can leap over decades of technology and land squarely in the future. But number 10, Alexis de Tocqueville foresees the Cold War. In 1835, more than a century before the Cold War, French historian Alexis de Tocqueville saw it coming. In his landmark book, Democracy in America, he wrote, "There are 2 great peoples on the earth today, the Russians and the Anglo-Americans. Each seems called to hold the destinies of half the world in its hands." At a time when America was a young democracy and Russia was still under Tsarist rule, he predicted not just their rise to power, but their inevitable rivalry. Tocqueville described America's strength as rooted in individual freedom and self-interest, while Russia's power came from centralized authority and enforced obedience. This was decades before nuclear standoffs, proxy wars, and ideological battles, but his words capture the exact philosophical divide that would define the 20th century. His foresight wasn't lucky. It was the product of sharp political analysis and a deep understanding of how national character shapes destiny. From Tesla's wireless dreams to Clarke's satellites, and from Twain's cosmic coincidence to Wells's atomic vision, history's most uncanny predictions remind us that true foresight is born from sharp observation, bold imagination, and fearless curiosity. These moments show how understanding the past can unlock glimpses of the future and sometimes even help shape it. If these stories made you rethink what's possible, don't just leave with wonder. Share it. Comment your favorite prediction. Hit like and subscribe for more fascinating journeys into history's hidden truths. Thanks for watching.